my name is Julie Callis. I'm the Assistant Director of Admin Services at the National Consortium for the Study of Terrorism and Responses to Terrorism at the University of Maryland. And today I'm going to be talking a little bit about document backup and management from a department level. So I always like to start the conversation about document management with always the question in my mind is, if I am audited at this moment, do I have good explanations? Can I describe everything and make sure that it's valid and applicable to the award? At the university setting, we really have even more than just the federal audits to consider, but we often get state audits or internal processes looking at purchasing data, that type of thing. But once you get a good document management system in place, all of these things will be covered and your life will be a whole lot simpler down the road. So when I think about document management, I really have three sort of main areas that I'm thinking about. And the first is award documentation itself. The second is expenditures against the award, and then the third is for technical reporting for the award. With the award documentation, I tend to think you need to have everything in place that tells the history of how this award has gone on. So you want your original proposal, you'll want the award document as it came in, your research terms and conditions for that award. Keep in mind any modifications that you've had to the award, such as no cost extensions, and then also any sort of special approvals that you may have received from your sponsor. So for example, if you had to get approval for a foreign travel, you want to make sure you have the record of all of that together, concise in one location so you can access it easily should you have any questions down the road. For expenditures, I tend to think of, can you answer the sort of who, what, when, where, why, and how of this expense and why it's allocated to this award. For many things, this may be really obvious. So for example, if you have a piece of equipment in your proposal and you have purchased that exact piece of equipment, you may not really need a whole lot of backup beyond the receipt and the actual process. But the explanation is pretty clear as to why you've purchased it. On the other hand, if you've purchased something like Legos on a federal award and some outsider might look at that and think, oh, why are you spending federal money on Legos? But maybe you go back to the award and there's a clear explanation, like there's an education outreach component to small children, and the PI has developed this great way to teach complex concepts using a Lego model. It may be allowable, but you're going to want to document some sort of explanation, maybe attach a lesson plan with it, because think down the road, are you really going to remember clearly why you purchased Legos? And that's probably going to raise some questions down the road. So you really want to make sure you sort of think about things as these go along. As far as technical reporting, these often come directly from the PI to the sponsor, which is fine, but you want to make sure in your central department offices that you're receiving copies of things and you have some sort of system to track it. Outside of even just the basic of making sure that you're remaining compliant with the award, with your reporting, they're often also tied to financial increments. So, if you're waiting on a financial increment to come in, you want to make sure you know when that technical milestone was hit so that you know that you should be receiving the additional funds. In terms of developing a system in general, a lot of people do it very differently, and there isn't necessarily one particular right way. I personally like to keep an electronic filing system because I find that most things nowadays I'm receiving electronically, and when I'm asked for documentation, I tend to send it electronically. So I like to keep a file system as long as it's clear for you. You have set folders for each award and you're tracking everything. Some people prefer paper, and that's fine too, as long as it's accessible. I would caution that one major thing to think about is to make sure that it's accessible and understandable to others in your department. So you want to always keep in mind, if I've left my job, if something happens to me, if I'm just not there that day, can someone else go in and tell the same story of exactly what happened without too much difficulty? And I think one area that I find we need to be especially cautious about is email, given that how many things now happen via email. It's really easy as you're getting busy, you have a lot of correspondence, to rely on being able to search your email and pull the document. But you want to keep in mind that not everyone else in your department is going to have access to those email trails, and make sure you're saving a copy as you go along. That'll really make your life easier down the road. So a lot of this takes some time, and it takes some consideration to really seriously think about how you're going to design your systems for tracking these things, depending on how centralized or decentralized purchasing and various other aspects in your department are, it may take a little more effort or not for some departments over others. But I find that sitting down at the beginning and designing these approaches to get a good system in place from the start is really going to save you time down the road when it comes time to respond to inquiries on these subjects. So I hope that was helpful.